Hey y'all, we are in the Commonwealth cabin, gonna do a top 10 most valuable video today. We are looking at cereal toys. That's right, those old toys that used to be in your cereal. When you were a kid, you'd open those things up and you'd dig down to the bottom of it and try to find that treasure without smashing all of the cereal. I suppose they still do it, and they did it a long time ago as well. We're gonna take a look to see if you're out there at garage sales, if you're out there thrifting, if you come across any of these items, scoop them up real quick. We're gonna go with a classic right off the bat. Number 10 on the list is Captain Crunch Sogmasters, or Soggies. They had glow-in-the-dark ones. Matter of fact, they had a couple different glow-in-the-dark items. They had Circus Acrobats, but I remember pulling the Soggies out of the cereal box when I was a kid. And depending on how you sell these, if you ever come across them, and we did, my wife actually looked some up. I found some in a giant bag. I didn't even know I found them, and she was looking through them, and she's like, hey, check this out. And they actually sell for pretty good money. We sold a lot off not too long ago. Depending on how you sell them, you could get between, 10, 15, 20 bucks. And if you lot them up, you could get even more. Check it out, Captain Crunch Soggies. Number 9 on the list, I think this came in a Kellogg's box. I remember pulling these out when I was a kid. Octopus Wall Walkers, Wacky Wall Walkers. And I'm not positive of the value. I'll show you a couple comps up here, but 15, 20, 30 bucks I think is pretty reasonable if you find these, and these were a pretty cool little toy. I was going to go with the Frankenberry Count Chocula door knockers, and I think the door knockers were a few different cereals, but you know what, we're going to lump all of the vintage monster cereals in one lot, because we could do a top 10 of just the toys that came out of those cereals. They can be worth a pretty penny. The door knockers is one of my favorites because you don't come across them very often. I've never found one, that's for sure. And you know what? They can go for crazy money at times. But Count Chocula, Boo Berry, and Frankenberry cereals, you can find some pretty cool stuff. I will try to put a few comps on here. But definitely, if you ever find that stuff out there, and then there's some mail-in stuff that was worth some really big money as well. We're trying to keep the mail-in stuff out of this video, but it's kind of all lumped together in cereal type items that can bring you big bucks on eBay. Along those same lines, we are going to lump together some Kellogg cereal giveaways. They used to put HR Pufnstuf stuff in their cereal boxes, and we could do a top 10 on those. So we're going to put those up in this video as well, and you can check those out if you ever come across that stuff, not just cereal-wise, but just about anything. A lot of that really does, I'm trying not to say stuff, a lot of that stuff really does bring some pretty good money, and I haven't found it. It's been years since I found any of that, but I can't wait to find it again. Some of you know in my former life, I used to be a high school history teacher, so I figured I'd give you a little bit of history when we do these top 10s. Cereal boxes weren't the first ones, as I'm sure some of you can guess, to give away things in the packaging of something that was marketed to kids. It was Cracker Jack, 1912. But in 1909, before that, the cereal companies, I can't remember which one, they would give away a little book called Funny Jungle Land. And it was a giveaway, not in the cereal, but if you bought the cereal, I think you had to buy a couple of them. They'd give it to you at checkout. That's when it starts, 1909. And, this is the era of mass industrialism has totally taken over at this point. Not totally, but has taken over at this point. And you're seeing mass marketing as well. And the mass consumer economy is ramping up, and you start to see this kind of thing. In the 1940s, Kellogg's, and right in the middle of the war, 1943, the forgotten year, because of course D-Day's in 44, and Pearl Harbor in 41, and big ramp up to war and all that stuff that goes on. But in 1943, it was certainly not forgotten if you're fighting on the Eastern Front or in North Africa and Italy and all those places, but not the major historical fighting that we think of, but still massive fighting. But in 1943, you saw Kellogg give away military pins for squadrons, 34, 36, something like that, and United States Air Force squadrons, naval squadrons in their cereal, and the kids would collect them. And if you can find those are worth some pretty good money as well. Individually, maybe 10, 15 bucks, but you get a whole collection, all 36, you can make some money. Hey, y'all, we're in the supply hub for just a second. I figured I'd do number 6 in here. Frankenberry again. We're going to go back to them, except for this time, it's not the vintage stuff. It's the very modern stuff. Just from a couple years ago, they did the Squad, and that stuff sells for pretty darn good money. Check it out in the comps. It surprised me when I saw it. Now I'm going to be looking for it. Back in the Commonwealth cabin with number 5. Some of y'all, if you're my age, might remember these. Matter of fact, I might have something similar back here in the back of the cabin. I believe in the late 70s, maybe some early 80s too, they would put these little license plates inside of Kellogg's cereals. Pretty sure it's Kellogg's cereals. And these could go anywhere. Matter of fact, these could be in the runners up because individually they're not worth that much, but a lot of people would collect them. And so when you come across them, they actually come in sets a lot of times and can bring some pretty good money. It might surprise you a little bit. It surprised me because I remember coming across those all the time way back when. Number 4 on the list is something I look out for in general, and that is Pink Panther stuff. But Post Flakes back in the day did a Pink Panther toy giveaway, and it can go for some pretty good bucks. I think $50 on up, maybe around $100 sometimes. Keep an eye out for that one. Pepper says maybe some Black Panther toys out there, huh? Hey, babe. You know any jokes about cereal?
Yeah.
All right, what you got?
Have you heard about the 80s pop duo who are now in cereal distribution?
80s pop duo, Milli Vanilli?
What kind of vanilla is that cereal? Now
That's
you're messing up
90s
the
anyway.
whole thing because they're Hall & Oates.
Right here, we're going to put the Ralston space gun, or better yet, guns. There's a couple of them. Hydrogen gun and a space patrol gun from the 1950s. A toy before its time. These are pretty cool. If you find them, they'll go really quick for, you know, around $100. And go back a little further to the 1940s and Kix cereal, which I think was a terrible cereal, if my recollection serves me well, from the 1980s. They had a Lone Ranger atomic bomb ring, and they're not easy to find out there, but I suppose some people have them and some people can find them. But if you can get it in your mind's eye, you can find that thing, and they go for big bucks as well. Check out some of these awesome comps. 1947 seems to be pretty appropriate for an atomic bomb ring for sure. Now the next one is going to be our number 1, but before we do our number 1, let's do some runners up right here. I'll show you a few runners up, put a little music behind it, and while we're doing that, comment below of anything that you think that I've missed so far. The next one we put number 1 on the list, and it's not necessarily because it's the absolute highest dollar. It's because you can actually find this stuff. We found it out there. If you know what you're looking for, you can grab these. We found Grumble. We found the pink one. There's different figures. There's all kinds of different toys that they used to put out in the 1970s and I think into the 1980s. These freaky toys are just that. They're a little freaky, but you know, you could find the little figures. They had magnets, they had like metals, they had patches, they had all kinds of stuff, and just about all of it has some value. There's even some freaky stuff that wasn't in the cereal boxes at all. I can only assume it's mail-in stuff. I'm not sure about that, but there's t-shirts that go for big bucks. So take a look at some of these characters. So if you see anything out there with these characters on it, I would buy them for sure. If you can get a big lot of them, you can really make some big bucks. We've sold them before, and we're constantly on the lookout for them. Hey, I just wanted to say thank you for joining me in the Commonwealth cabin today. Hopefully you enjoyed this video today. If you're unfamiliar with us, we've got 3 channels. The Commonwealth Picker channel, where we're out there at garage sales finding stuff. The Commonwealth Flipper channel, where we're in the Commonwealth cabin selling stuff. And Garage Sale Nation, where we put our short form content and our how-to videos, and our Garage Sale Nation Facebook page reviews of massive highway sales across the country. Thanks again for joining us today, and I can't wait to see you next time.